So this same article talks about how different things impact someone's communication style, cultural and social conventions, gender and social roles, emotions and perception, environment, or medium. So I'm going to just scroll a little bit further. It says, how does culture affect communication styles? Obviously, it says culture is a big part of communication. Everyone comes into an interaction with their own set of values, beliefs, and experiences. According to the US Department of State, now we have the government trying to define things for us. Someone's communication style can be impacted by the role context plays in their culture. So we have two different contexts. High context communication, this style tends to focus more on relationships, formality, and hierarchy, with someone shifting how they communicate based on a specific scenario. So it seems like that's context dependent. I see, like specific scenario dependent. And then we have low context communication. This style is often straightforward and personal, with people saying exactly what they mean and focusing on getting tasks done. That's you. Low context communication.
I don't
Like,
like the way that's portrayed. Low
I don't like
context.
it's definitely a little trying to say something about you, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. So it also says here, it can be confusing why somebody else communicates in a style you're not used to. I'm guilty of trying to understand that more in my life. I do have a few people who are very solution based, and I used to think it was very dismissive, but it's not always that. I also have spoken before that I tend to be a highly sensitive person. So sometimes I take things and draw them out longer than
You know,
necessary.
the funny part is too, sometimes the funny part is like in these low context cultures, I would say like America, I would say Canada and probably Switzerland as well.
Do you
But
think America's low context?
I do think so. I think we
Okay.
focus a lot on words and verbal. And when I think of the high context cultures, I mean, for lack of a better phrase, I think of body language. But I think America, unless you study it, unless you have experience, education, which of course, I've studied the body language, which so it's funny. Like I use words, but I interpret body language because, like, I guess my nature, like I said, because of my profession, my past experiences, like your words say something, but I'm listening to your body more than your words. Now I'm a words guy because and this goes back to the feelings thing. I'm gonna say it however you feel you're going to feel, but I'm going to say it. But I interpret more body language because I know people's words, especially when they say, use certain symbols, use certain head nods. I'm like, okay, we're not confident in that answer.
So the low context is more straightforward and personal. I think I see what you're saying about America. I do know that the first episode, once again, season three, episode one, where we had my friend Brittany, she was given the context of how other cultures, the Eritrean and Ethiopian culture, I believe, focuses more on. I was in that episode, sorry. In that episode, I was talking about how when I speak to my Ghanaian friends that are specifically in Ghana, when I ask them how they're doing, sometimes it's a very formal answer. And that is a communication and cultural aspect of it. And they may not necessarily tell you exactly what's going on. I had a situation when I went there in 2022 where the person didn't tell me that maybe I had made them uncomfortable, but similar to what you said, I could read the room and think it doesn't seem like they like this. Without getting into details, I don't even think the person has come across the podcast, but basically, we had agreed to hang out. And unfortunately, I was super late. I did not plan well. And also traffic in Ghana, specifically Accra, which is the capital of Ghana, it's a mad thing. So basically, I let her know, and I think to compensate for me being late, I paid for our dinner. But I couldn't tell if she wanted to hang out again, which makes sense because I was super late. But I think if she wanted to, because it was supposed to be a new acquaintanceship, she wanted to kind of forgive me for that and still fill me out, she could. But it became a thing where it felt like, according to her body language, according to my perception, she didn't seem open to it. And then communication has now fallen out and it's no longer a thing. And I feel like if there was anything, if she was upset, because she just said it's okay, no worry about it. But I was more than I was more than 30 minutes late, which I usually never am. But like I said, I was in traffic. There's nothing I can do about it. Anyways, I conclude all of that to say it felt like maybe something I did again, or maybe me being late had put her off completely. And I would have wished that if there was any other conflict that she had with me, that she would let me know about it. And I'm obviously not trying to be long winded, but that's an example of how I feel that within what I understand about my culture, the formality doesn't allow you to just be straightforward like a low context communication does, where you just say things for what they are, but you kind of beat around the bush because you don't want to easily offend anyone. And I still think that there's room for that, like to not be rude and to kind of be careful with your words. But I was also thinking the other day, being polite to a certain extent could still be problematic, because if you don't tell me that there's an issue, that's an issue. And you're also like, I don't think you could be okay with not bringing things up. Does that make sense? Like, if you refuse to be straightforward with me, then you contribute to the issue by thinking that being polite is going to mediate the situation. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense, and this is why we're talking about it, because it could, because of the cultural differences, and it's not straightforwardness, but it's still an issue in hand. I think it's very important. I mean, one, it can be very confusing when you're dealing with somebody that's not the same communication style as you. Because you said high context, as you mentioned, it does focus more on relationships and formalities and hierarchy. So once again, depending who you are is depending on what I'm going to interact or discuss with you in those ways. And it could be bilingual, someone shifting how to communicate, in those ways. Whereas low context, which is like people like me, I'm gonna tell you how it is straight up, and you might feel some type of way because maybe it's too direct. Depending if you're a non-low context person, or maybe in general, like you guys say exactly what they mean, and from there, don't 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 think on conclusions based on the assumptions you made on your own. Like, look at my words, but don't take the words and think your own assumption because I said this.